Are there any particular pieces of career advice that you would give people just in terms of communication? I mean, say with interviews, any particular tips or tricks that you think would be helpful for our listeners?
Yeah, I think don't wing it is a big one, and I think practice your answering questions, because it's funny. Somebody that was in my community for public speaking and communication, he said he'd had, I think, about 40 or 50 interviews and hadn't got a single job. And then we worked together just for a week on frameworks on how to answer questions, and then within the space of that sort of 7 days, he actually found a job. So I think it's possible. And I think you've got to, whether it's asking family and friends to watch you on Zoom or to interview you, because it's just little things like, are you looking in the camera? Or what this guy would do is he'd be asked a question and he'd say, I think, blah, blah, blah. And blah, blah, blah. You can imagine doing that in a job interview. People would wonder what's wrong with you. Right? So just things like that you may not spot. So yeah, I mean, I think that's my main tip. Is don't rely just on yourself, but ask other people to feedback.
Sorry, for the listeners on our podcast who can't see Shola, what she was doing was staring into the camera and then jumping back, which is just not a good look on Zoom. But I think that's such a great tip. Just get somebody to go through the questions with you and actually record it and watch yourself back. And then if you have these annoying tics, or maybe the clothing you're wearing is not appropriate, or whatever it is, the lighting, I think I totally agree with you. Preparation is so important. And it's funny, when I was doing the Toastmasters stuff, I always found that the more you just keep practicing it, keep going over your speech, you can almost never do it enough, because I think the more you do it, then the answers become much more natural and not so artificial in a way. It just becomes a lot smoother. And then you can actually almost own the answers yourself. Don't you think so, Shola?
Yeah, it's interesting because with TED, I was reading about TED Talks and what they do with each speaker that does the TED Talks. And this is the big one in Washington, I think, where they do it, Washington State, I believe. But when they have the TED Talks, what they'll do is they'll give each speaker a project manager, and they'll task the speaker with memorizing this speech word for word, because then once you've actually internalized it, that's when you can be relaxed and be present with the audience, rather than thinking, well, what have I got to say next? And I think it's the same thing where with your stories, the interviewer wants you to do well. They really they don't want to waste time. They don't want to, they'd rather eliminate you before you get there than they waste their time. So if they've taken the time out to see you, that means that they think you have potential. So you don't fight yourself, don't take yourself out of the game. Make sure you do all you can to be prepared. So it is really knowing what are those key stories that I can share that talk about my competencies and talk about great things I've done in the past that would impress that interviewer. So yeah, just don't take yourself out of the game. Do that work, because you never know when that great job is coming along, and you might be primed to get it, but because you talk yourself out of it, you don't get the opportunity.